What is One Piece FighterZ? A One Piece fighting game developed by ArcSystemWorks, but what does that mean exactly? After the success of Dragon Ball FighterZ, fans cannot stop wondering what's next for the fighting game developer. We'd like to see them tackle another anime franchise with this style of fighting game, and you guys seem to like the Naruto FighterZ video, so we're doing it again, this time for One Piece. It's not as simple as doing the same they did for FighterZ, but with One Piece characters. There are a lot of universal mechanics in FighterZ that were made specifically for Dragon Ball, things like the Dragon Rush, Super Dash, Vanishes. A lot of these wouldn't make sense for One Piece characters. And I've been a long time One Piece fan, but there's one man that hasn't stopped thinking about the possibility of an ArcSys One Piece game ever since the announcement of Dragon Ball FighterZ back in 2017. The game wasn't even out, and that man is Tyrant.
It's true, as a die-hard One Piece fan, just thinking about the possibility of a One Piece FighterZ fills me with excitement, even if it's not a real thing yet.
So we got together on Twitch and we brainstormed what this game would look like.
We're going to be talking about mechanics, game modes, and maybe even the full roster.
My name is Globku.
My name is Tyrant,
and this is One Piece FighterZ. First, what type of fighting game is this? Is it a 1v1? Is it a tag game? How many characters can you select before you head into battle?
I've always imagined One Piece FighterZ as a 3v3 game. There are a lot of team fights in the show. One of the main themes is the sense of the crew, so having a team of 3 is the bare minimum for a fighting game.
If we're just going by the show's lore, we could even have fights that are 10v10, but for a fighting game that might be a bit too much.
We're going to stay rooted in the Dragon Ball FighterZ format and make this a 3v3 game.
We're also going to keep the basic Dragon Ball FighterZ button layout with light, medium, heavy, and special attack buttons, along with 2 buttons dedicated for assists.
This is a layout that is shared amongst many ArcSys games. It's fairly simple to understand, and there's no reason to change it here.
All your characters have their own health bars, you've got meter that is shared between all the characters. So far, we're sticking pretty close to Dragon Ball FighterZ.
And we're not done. One of the things that defines Dragon Ball FighterZ is how easy it is to pick up, and that is largely because of auto combos, another feature that needs to be in One Piece FighterZ.
Along with the usual movement options from ArcSystemWorks like double jumps and air dashes. No super dashes or vanishes though.
Super dash is very much a Dragon Ball mechanic, and it wouldn't make sense in One Piece. And maybe we can give vanish to some of them as a special move, but it also doesn't make sense as a universal mechanic.
So now that we've determined what's similar to Dragon Ball FighterZ, let's start deviating from that FighterZ formula and make this game a bit more unique, starting with a combo structure.
Since we've removed the super dash, you can't really launch the opponent into the sky and follow up by flying to them.
But we can always have a grounded launcher that allows you to follow up with an air combo, and because this is a tag game, combos need to be big and flashy. So we're gonna draw a lot of this combo structure from Marvel vs. Capcom.
In addition to a launcher, a combo can also have a wall bounce and a ground bounce. You can start with a launcher, go into the air, get that ground bounce, followed by a wall bounce, and finish your combo.
Or you start with a wall bounce, then go into the launcher and save that ground bounce to the very end.
This will give you plenty of freedom to build unique combos and be creative with different types of openings.
We're also changing the Dragon Ball FighterZ throw mechanic, also known as the Dragon Rush, and we're swapping it for a more traditional throw, a bit like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear Strive.
The Dragon Rush is slow enough that it can be teched on reaction by good enough players, but if you land it, it also leads to a full combo, which could mean big damage.
A traditional throw is usually unreactable. You need to read it in order to tech it, but you don't get a full combo out of it, you simply knock the opponent down into the ground.
But since this is a tag game, we want those big damage combos. So if you choose to spend a bar of meter, you may be able to extend the throw. It's not exactly a full combo. Maybe the throw itself spends the launcher and the wall bounce, but it still gives you a chance to pick up the opponent off the ground.
We took a lot of inspiration from Guilty Gear Strive for throws. In a way, it's similar to how you can Roman cancel a throw to extend it into a bigger combo. So obviously, we're also going to include air throws in the game. And if you miss the throw, there will be a whiff animation where you can actually get punished.
But with a throw that is unreactable, mix-ups can be quite scary in a tag game, where you have 2 assists to keep up the pressure, so we're going to need to give players some defensive options.
We're adding a free pushback that players can do at any time while in block stun. This would push the opponent's back slightly, not a lot. It would feel similar to faultless defense in Guilty Gear Strive, just pushing the opponent enough so that the next move might miss. But if it is mistimed, it can also lead to a whiffed animation, kinda like whiffing and reflect in FighterZ.
And you can also spend meter defensively with a guard cancel, which is kinda like a bigger push block, but it costs meter. This one would push the opponent back significantly and return you to neutral, but it can also be risky to use because once again, if you whiff it, you can get punished.
And I think that about covers it as far as game systems go.
Yes, we've used a lot of the Dragon Ball FighterZ DNA as a starting point, but then sprinkled in some Marvel vs. Capcom and some Guilty Gear Strive to plug the gaps for systems that wouldn't make sense for a One Piece game.
I'm pretty happy with this mix that we've achieved, so let's jump into the roster. We're gonna stick to 24 characters at launch. That's a pretty big roster for a fighting game, but man, reducing One Piece to 24 characters is not an easy task.
Yeah, we're gonna speed run through this roster, but trust us, this was not easy. We streamed the whole process on Twitch, and we'll leave you with the VOD link in the description, in case you want to understand our choices a little bit better.
The whole Straw Hat crew has to be there. Love it or hate it, everyone has to make it. Jinbei may be DLC, we're not adding him to the launch roster just yet.
In addition to the crew, we're also adding Ace and Law, possibly Luffy's biggest allies in the series.
Shouldn't Sabo be there too?
Look man, don't make this worse than it already is. You know as well as I do, we don't have the space for Sabo.
Alright, to the DLC bin then. We also need a sizable marine presence, so we're adding the admirals along with Kuzan, and of course everyone's favorite marine, Captain Smoker.
On the pirate side, we'd also like to add a healthy dose of warlords, so we're going to be adding Buggy, Crocodile, Doflamingo, and Boa Hancock.
I would also like to add a Revolution Army character, and we opted for Ivankov.
Yeah, I feel like she would bring a more unique playstyle than Sabo to the launch roster, and then thinking about fighting games, you have to consider that unique factor as well.
And to wrap things up, let's add the most powerful pirates to the mix. We've got the Emperor's Blackbeard, Big Mom, and Kaido.
So no Shanks?
Oh, come on, Tyrant. You know we tried, but we ran out of space. He's got to be DLC.
Yeah, it doesn't feel so good now, does it?
No, I deserve that. But hey, good DLC characters are gonna sell like crazy. And trust me, One Piece DLC is one of the easiest things to do in the world.
A lot of these characters were also chosen for story mode to make sense. We have the Marines on the left side, the Straw Hat crew in the middle, and the Warlord Alliance on the right side. The three Emperors would be locked at the start. They're characters you unlock once you beat story mode.
Though that's something that we know that people who play fighting games don't necessarily want to do. When you just want to play the fighting game, unlocking characters can be a pain. And that's something that we're taking into consideration when developing this story mode.
We believe we have really built something special with this story mode. It is unlike anything we've ever seen in other fighting games.
This is probably the thing I'm most proud of in this entire video. One Piece is about exploring the seas, meeting new characters in an island whose culture and abilities are unlike anything you've ever seen before. It's about the adventure and the clashing of ideals between different pirate groups and the Marines.
Our goal with this story mode was to capture all of that, while still staying realistic, of course. We can't just create a full open world where you can navigate in a 3D environment. That's way too big of a budget for a fighting game story mode.
The story itself will have to be an original one. With any roster of characters, it's really hard to retell the events of a specific arc. If we want this type of character variety, we have to deviate from One Piece's canon arcs and just make up something completely original. Preferably written by Oda Sensei himself, which is something that is not that uncommon for anime games.
So the game starts and it's just Luffy and the Sunny. He's been separated from his crew, he's on a remote island, and he wants to find everyone else. He's been separated because the crew came to this region in search for something Roger left behind. Roger's treasure is somewhere around here, waiting to be found.
Recently, I finished this game called Spiritfarer, and it's a game where you guide spirits into the afterlife. And you do that by finding these spirits scattered across different islands that you must first discover. And the game doesn't gate you in any way. At any point, you can go to the map and click any point in the world. So you can travel from island to island, or you can try to skip and find an island that it wasn't meant to be found until later in the game. This style of map navigation would be the perfect way to preserve the exploration side of One Piece while staying within a reasonable budget.
You can simply follow the log posts, which will guide you to the next island, finding your crew along the way. Or you can try to skip all of that and make your way straight to the end goal. And I'm sure within an hour of this game's release, there'll be a guide telling you exactly how to get to the final islands as fast as possible. And that's fine. Those who want to live through the adventure will follow the log posts. Those who want to just unlock the characters, just follow the guide.
Each island can have an increasingly harder difficulty. The first islands work as tutorials and challenge modes, and as you go, you might find some obstacles. Like in Spiritfarer, if there's a storm between you and your objective, you'll get hit with the storm on the way there. And there would also be certain obstacles that require ship upgrades. For instance, to get to the Sky Islands, you need to make your ship strong enough to withstand the knock-up stream. To get past the red line, you need to coat your ship so you can travel underneath it.
This mode would encourage you to find an island once in a while, since any damage to your characters would be permanent until you dock on an island. And you have your ship's cola to worry about as well. If you just follow the log post, it's fine, but you really want to find all the secrets in this game mode. You'll be stretching those resources.
Not to mention, traveling an empty ocean can be boring if nothing happens. So we needed this resource management to add some risk to it. In Spiritfarer, while you're traveling, you can craft different things. You can fish, there's a lot to do.
In One Piece FighterZ, you'd be able to interact with your crew and also run into minor pirates or marine ships, where a fight would break out in the style of Grand Blue Fantasy Versus, where a character of your choice can defeat a bunch of mobs mobs, letting you try out these characters in a different environment and getting even more familiar with their moves in game.
And if you travel too far, you may even get attacked by a Sea King, triggering a boss fight.
In the end, you find Roger's treasure, you learn what it's all about, and you unlock one of the 3 emperors we have in our launch roster. And then it's time to start over, this time with the Warlord Alliance.
Instead of playing as Luffy and the crew, you now have access to this mode with these other characters who will be starting in a different point in the world. Their log pose will give them a different journey, but the end goal will still be the same.
And after you beat the story with the Warlord Alliance, you can do it again as the Marines, unlocking the final emperor you need to complete the roster.
Just thinking about this game mode makes me want to explore it, and it's not even real yet. Oda would be creating all of these islands with small contained stories, each one of them, all leading up to Roger's treasure, which is being chased by these 3 big factions. And by playing through all of their journeys, you'd gain a new perspective on the story. I almost forgot we were building a fighting game for a second.
But we are, and you know what fighting games need? Stages.
With the way we built the story mode, and since you can get attacked while traveling, we're gonna need a ship stage for each one of these factions. So we have the Thousand Sunny, Boa Hancock's ship, and a Marine warship.
From there, we can go a bit crazy with some fan favorites and iconic locations like Skypiea, Dressrosa, Impel Down, Whole Cake, and Water 7.
We have a total of 13 stages. See if you can recognize them all. We've tried to keep the number of stages to the same number that FighterZ has, which is a bigger number than I remember.
That's because we're all just playing in cell games for the lag, you know?
Speaking of lag, rollback netcode, obviously, and we have the usual casual and ranked matches, pretty straightforward.
Except your rank is represented by your bounty to stay true to the universe.
I believe Guilty Gear does the same thing, with the wanted posters and everything. Other than that, the game would be pretty straightforward. We'd have a tutorial, a training mode, some combo challenges,
and an arcade mode that would emulate Impel Down, a series of 6 battles, 1 per Impel Down floor, where you select a main character with 2 others, and once you beat it, you get a little cutscene for that character at the end.
With 24 characters, that is 144 battles against the CPU, which, you know, not my favorite, fighting the CPU in a fighting game, but hey, single player content, baby.
And I think we've done it. I think we've successfully built One Piece FighterZ, Globku.
Well, on paper at least. And now we'll have to live with this idea of a game that may never exist.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of crazy. It kind of hurts to put in so much work into a theoretical game, but you know, this would be the dream One Piece fighting game for me personally.
Absolutely. Check out Tyrant at twitch.tv/TyrantUK and Frame Advantage on YouTube. I'll have those links for you guys in the description down below. And thank you for joining me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me on, man. This was a lot of fun. Really happy to do this, and let's try and do some more of these in the future. This was awesome.
Hope you guys enjoyed it too, and as always, thank you very much for watching. My name is Globku, and I'll see you next time. Bye.